The Game Awards celebrated its 8th ceremony with a lot of surprises and game announcements. It currently holds a record of 85 million live streams, which is a lot compared to the 10.4 million views of 2021 Oscars and very close to the 96.4 million views of this year's Super Bowl. Of course, those are 3 different live events. But the truth is, they all want to have the most amount of viewership, balancing with a top-of-tier spectacle and a fair awards ceremony, especially Jeff Keighley itself, founder of the Game Awards. Considering we have good amount of data with all these video game outlets as voting juries, I think it's fair to ask ourselves how these nominees got chosen in the first place. For this time, I'll focus on some of the most important features to be a Game of the Year nominee at the Game Awards and what are the least popular gaming genres that don't even stand a chance. I'm Leo S. Luna, by the way, former video game reviewer and editor, and this is just a thought. So before starting, what were your favorite video games of 2021? Let me know in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel so you can watch this kind of video game analysis and much more. So let's first explain how nominees and awards get chosen. As quoted in TGA's webpage, an international jury of over 100 global media and influencer outlets selected for their history of critical evaluation of video games and of quote, choose every nominee. Each nominee is picked as a collective opinion of each outlet's staff, or at least the reviewer team in charge. That said, it's their call to decide that video games like Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 were chosen as nominees for Best RPG. In the same way, they could have just only selected the ones they really consider candidates for that nomination. For example, to pick only the 3 best nominees instead of a list of 5 to fill up the maximum of most categories. Winners are chosen with 90% of votes represented by the same international jury of video game outlets, while 10% is left by the public. The reason why the public doesn't choose more percentage of 100 for this is because Jeff Keighley and his team don't want social engineering to affect voting system. Unquote, a public vote puts single-platform games at an inherent disadvantage over multi-platform titles. To put it less nicely, not everyone has every console at home or the duty to play every game. So it's kind of fair. And no, Jeff Keighley is not part of the jury system. Now, let's take a look at some of the statistics I made based only on Game of the Year nominees and provide to you some interesting takes. Let's ask first, does the genre affect chances of winning? Well, if you think about it, it's really difficult to encapsulate one video game in one genre. That's why I based my investigation on a great article I found on OC Register on the most popular genres winning Oscars, which you may find on the description of this video. Basically, you pick the main 3 genres of each video game, then include other important features as well. So let's take a look. For genre popularity stat results, I decided to make an exception and include every main genre nominated for every award at the Game Awards, just to have a comparison point. Casual, racing, sports, strategy, fighting, platformer, role-playing, action, simulation, and adventure. It's no surprise to see 3 genres, the specific 3 genres at the top 3. However, it's more interesting to see what are the least favorites. Let's talk about that later on. Where third-person camera games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Sekiro are the easiest winners, and a fixed camera on fighting games like Guilty Gear Strive is the least likely to get nominated, with the only exception of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, of course. A similar and notorious difference is seen on new versus old IPs, where old IPs are far more recognized by juries. I consider new intellectual properties as video games that were released the first time, by any studio and publisher the year that were chosen at award ceremonies. Examples like Hearthstone in 2014 and It Takes Two in 2021 are clear examples of new IPs. And if I choose between all the new studios, well, winner is even more obvious. Publishers with the most nominations are also key to understanding which games are more or less popular. Now, based on all previous stats, let's take a look at the Game of the Year winners, their qualifying features, and decide what a video game needs to have to be a strong contender. For the Jeff Awards, of course. So basically, a Game of the Year qualifier must be in the action, adventure, or role-playing genre with first or third-person camera. Of course, it needs to be an old IP from an old studio and a mainly well-known publisher like Activision and such. But what if you like a video game to be the least likely chosen, even as a Game of the Year nominee? Well, it's easy. Try to be a sports, racing, or casual video game, hopefully with a top-down or fixed camera perspective. You better be debuting studio with a new IP. It doesn't matter if it scores for excellence at Metacritic or Steam. And definitely do not pick any of those companies to publish your game. Please remember, I'm only analyzing data based on the Game of the Year nominees at the Game Awards. But that doesn't mean we'll have exceptions to the rule like what happened with It Takes Two or even Overwatch back in 2016. Also keep in mind that these are not the only awards ceremonies around. We do also have others like DICE, BAFTA, and GDC, and many other prestiged ceremonies. So there are other places where video games with less chances at TGAs could shine. But then of course, it's fair for a studio to wish for more exposure to millions of viewers, something that the Game Awards only does, and that's where the match point goes against, to less popular genres. Let's also consider more points that I haven't brought up. The fact that racing and strategy video games are not on the list doesn't mean they are not qualified to do so. The 2021 racing video game Forza Horizon 5 is currently one of the highest qualified of 2021 with 92 out of 100 on Metacritic and OpenCritic. Hell, even more than the other nominees from GOTYs last year, which kind of resonates with the amount of awards won at the ceremony for accessibility, best racing sports game, and sound design. Have you heard about the House of Fata Morgana Dreams of the Revenant edition? It's a manga visual novel remastered from a 2012 PC game released this 2021 that currently tops at Metacritic highest score last year with 97 out of 100. But then of course, you might argue that it's a remaster and it was previously released on other platforms as well. A strategy game like Crusader Kings 3 ranked with 91 out of 100 at Metacritic, and then of course it will never be a match with an older IP like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which scored a solid 87 out of 100, right? Once again, comparisons like that don't make much sense. All I'm saying is video games with higher scores should at least be a Game of the Year contender. You can argue that not every genre is appealing to every video game critic. Even time is an important factor to decide on favoritism. Early release titles are risking to be ignored or overshadowed by other giants. As a reviewer myself for over 5 years, it's really hard to have a time to play or review on some video games more than others. GamesRadar kind of solved this problem with the Golden Joystick Awards, which, by the way, is the longest running video game awards ceremony launched in 1983. They usually get to choose video games from the last day of the poll of the previous awards ceremony. It closes up until mid-October. Then it leaves about a month to decide the winners. The only caveat is that most of the nominees are chosen by the public, but hey, at least October is a good time to cut out. Even gaming outlets like Easy Allies decide their winners in January next year, using December to catch up on video games that the rest of juries haven't played. Another factor goes on preference based on video games with strong narrative and active cast over gameplay-based video games, which, by the way, aligns up with how Jeff Keighley fiercely emphasizes on collaborating with movie and series stars. This could potentially change some video game genres over appealing ones only to get more attention and risk the original idea for an IP, which sometimes may be detrimental. So I know these are awards supervised by Keighley's Team Vision, and I truly appreciate the effort taken. So that's why I came out with some ideas that might improve the ceremony, considering they are getting better each year. Not that I know him in person, but let's assume I've been heard by someone at this video game guild. Hoping. First, why not let the Game Awards nominations start at the end of November and add a 2-month period to stay up to date on video games that gaming outlets haven't tried? The Academy Award does the same to movies, and they take much less than 2 months to be viewed. Why not have a top 10 Game of the Year list instead of 6? Then that would be 10 songs to be played by TGS Orchestra, but at least it would be a solid list of the 10 best video games of the current year. That way it will be room for other smaller games with unfairly discarding an unpopular genre. Also, I'm fine with video game announcements, but it's necessary to call out of a movie artist on stage. Why not give more space to game creators instead? Then of course, there's a lot of logistics that we might not know, but could maybe explain more about how TGAs are handled. All in all, the Game Awards are in good shape and pretty much giving love to a lot of deserving games in other categories like accessibility, games for impact, indies, and so on. But again, I like studios to aspire on Game of the Year contenders without losing his direction and not necessarily appealing to what wins the most. That, of course, assuming the video game is a strong contender with high deserved scores. I'm also grateful for the spectacle and trailers shown, even if there's a lot of strange ads. So, what do you think of this topic? Would you consider other genres such as fighting strategy or racing as Game of the Year contenders? Do you even enjoy award ceremonies? Let me know your comments down below, and be sure to follow me on social media accounts for more random videos in regards to my opinion, tips, reviews, and more. Pura vida from Costa Rica.